There's something deeply fascinating about human nature, the way we crave love, yet sometimes push it away, the way we long for safety but run toward chaos. And one of the most perplexing things we see in relationships is when a woman walks away from a man who genuinely loves and cares for her. It doesn't make sense at first glance. Why leave someone who shows up, who chooses her, who treats her? But if we look a little deeper, we start to see the complexity of it all. Love isn't just about what happens between two people in the present. It's about everything that has shaped them before that moment. Every experience, every wound, every lesson about love that life has taught them. And for some women, love has never felt safe. Not the way it should be, not the way it's supposed to be. They may have grown up in environments where love came with conditions, where they had to earn affection, or where they were only noticed when they were fixing something, chasing something, proving something. Maybe love for them was intertwined with struggle. So when a man enters her life offering something different, love without the games, care without the conditions, presence without the pain, she may not know what to do with it. It's not that she doesn't want love. It's not that she doesn't crave it, dream of it, pray for it. It's that the version of love she recognizes is different from the one being offered to her. And familiarity is a powerful thing. We don't always choose what's best for us. We choose what feels familiar. We gravitate toward what we know, what we've learned to navigate, even if it's unhealthy, even if it hurts us. So here's this man standing before her, ready to love her the way she deserves. He's not playing mind games. He's not making her feel small or uncertain. He's consistent, he's kind, he listens. He's patient with her wounds, and yet instead of leaning in, she hesitates. Instead of opening up, she withdraws. Maybe it's because deep down she fears this is too good to be true, that any moment now, the rug will be pulled from beneath her feet and she'll be left shattered. Maybe it's because she's learned that love always comes with a cost, and she's bracing herself for the moment he'll change. Or maybe, just maybe, it's because accepting his love would require her to unlearn everything she thought she knew about relationships. And that kind of healing is terrifying. See, healing isn't just about moving on from pain. It's about rewriting the entire script of how we see love, how we allow ourselves to receive it. And that takes courage. That takes a woman looking in the mirror and saying, maybe I've been getting it wrong. Maybe love doesn't have to hurt. Maybe I don't have to fight for it. Maybe I don't have to earn it. That's a journey that can't be forced, and sometimes walking away is a part of that process. Not because she doesn't love him, not because he isn't enough, but because she isn't ready. And this is where the paradox comes in. She leaves, and he doesn't understand why. He questions himself. What did he do wrong? Why wasn't he enough? He gave her his best, and she still walked away. But it was never about him. It was never about his worth. It was about her wounds, her unhealed spaces, her unfinished battles. And that's the hardest part, because sometimes love isn't about holding on, it's about letting go. And if she's meant to, if she does the work, if she finds her way back to herself, maybe one day she'll also find her way back to him. Love is a beautiful thing, but it's also terrifying. It asks us to be seen fully and completely. It asks us to let down our walls, to step out of our defenses, to trust that someone else will hold our heart with care. And for many, that's the hardest thing in the world to do. It's not because they don't want love. It's not because they don't recognize its warmth, its beauty, its power. It's because deep down, love feels like a risk they're not sure they're willing to take. Imagine spending your whole life building an armor around yourself. Maybe that armor was necessary once. Maybe it protected you from past heartbreak, from disappointment, from the pain of abandonment or betrayal. Maybe you learned early on that if you let people too close, they could hurt you. That if you depended on someone too much, they could leave. That if you put your happiness in someone else's hands, you were setting yourself up to lose it. So you toughened up, you became independent, self-sufficient. You told yourself you didn't need anyone, and even if you did, you'd never let them know. Because needing someone meant giving them power over you. And that was a price you weren't willing to pay. And then one day, love finds you. Not the kind of love that plays games, not the kind that keeps you guessing, that makes you question your worth. No, this love is different. It's steady, it's honest, it's safe. And suddenly that armor you've been carrying starts to feel heavy. Because love, real love, doesn't ask for walls. It asks for openness. It asks for vulnerability. And that's terrifying because vulnerability means handing someone the very tools that could break you. It means saying, here, this is me, all of me, my fears, my insecurities, my past, my pain. Please be gentle. But what if they're not? What if they change their mind? What if they wake up one day and decide they don't love you anymore? What if they leave? What if they see parts of you that you've worked so hard to hide and decide you're too much or worse, not enough? These thoughts, these fears, they creep in, and suddenly the thing you wanted the most, the thing that feels so right, also feels like the biggest threat to your peace. So you push it away, not because you don't love him, not because you don't see his kindness, his patience, his effort, but because getting too close means risking too much. So maybe you start picking fights over small things. Maybe you convince yourself that something is missing even when everything feels right. Maybe you tell yourself he deserves someone who doesn't hesitate. Or maybe you just leave before he ever gets the chance to leave you. Because at least this way you're in control. At least this way you don't have to wake up one day feeling blindsided, feeling like you gave too much of yourself to someone who couldn't hold it. And the irony is the very thing you're afraid of, the heartbreak, the loss, the pain, it happens anyway. Because walking away from love doesn't protect you from hurt, it just ensures that you experience it in a different way. Instead of being left, you're the one doing the leaving. Instead of being hurt by someone else, you're the one breaking your own heart. And maybe one day you look back and realize that in trying to protect yourself, you ended up pushing away the one thing that could have healed you. Love is not about guarantees. It never has been. There are no promises that someone will stay forever, no assurances that you won't get hurt. But what love does offer is a choice to show up, to be present, to trust even when it's scary, a choice to believe that maybe, just maybe, this time, love won't be the thing that breaks you, but the thing that saves you. And if that kind of love finds you, I hope you don't run from it. I hope you don't let fear make the decision for you. Because at the end of the day, the risk of love will always be worth more than the certainty of regret. Love is supposed to feel like home. It's supposed to feel safe, steady, and grounding. But what if the only home you've ever known was one built on uncertainty, on highs and lows, on love that felt just a little out of reach? What if, instead of warmth, love had always been tied to struggle? If that's the case, then peace might not feel like home at all. It might feel foreign. It might feel unsettling. And that's where the paradox begins, where a woman finds herself walking away from the very thing she's always said she wanted. It's not that she doesn't see the goodness in a man who loves her. She sees it, she feels it, she knows logically that this is the kind of love that should be enough. But deep inside, something feels off. Not because there's anything wrong with him, but because there's something unrecognizable about the way he loves her. It doesn't trigger her anxiety, it doesn't keep her guessing. It doesn't make her feel like she has to chase, to earn, to prove. And for someone who has been conditioned to associate love with effort, with the push and pull, with the uncertainty, with the thrill of the unknown, this kind of love feels different, maybe even too easy. Because when you've spent your life fighting for love, a love that doesn't require a fight can feel like it lacks passion. When love has always come with distance, with emotional unavailability, with conditions, then something steady can almost seem dull in comparison. The nervous butterflies, the adrenaline of wondering where you stand, the longing for someone who never fully gives themselves to you, it becomes familiar. And sometimes familiarity is more seductive than peace. So she starts to question, she starts to overthink, she tells herself that maybe something is missing, that maybe she's not feeling what she's supposed to feel. She convinces herself that maybe the problem is the relationship, when really the discomfort is coming from within. Because when someone treats you well, when they don't trigger your past wounds, when they don't leave you feeling anxious or unworthy, it forces you to confront a truth you may not be ready to face. That maybe the problem was never love itself, but the version of love you accepted in the past. And that realization is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to admit that love wasn't supposed to hurt, that it wasn't supposed to feel like a game, that the very thing you once mistook for passion was actually just emotional survival. And choosing a different kind of love, a healthy love, means leaving behind the patterns that have shaped you. It means unlearning the belief that love has to be complicated to be real. But unlearning isn't easy. It takes time, it takes courage. And sometimes, before a woman can truly accept love in its purest form, she has to go through the process of walking away. Not because she doesn't care, not because she doesn't see the man in front of her, but because she has to learn for herself what love is supposed to feel like. She has to realize in her own time that love isn't about the chase, about the uncertainty, about proving your worth over and over again. It's about being seen, being chosen, being loved without condition. And when she's ready, when she's done confusing chaos for connection, when she's done mistaking inconsistency for desire, maybe then she'll recognize the kind of love that was meant for her all along. Love is one of the most transformative experiences in life. It has the power to heal, to elevate, to reveal parts of ourselves we never even knew existed. But love is not just about finding the right person. It's about being ready to receive the kind of love that is right for us. And sometimes, before a woman can truly embrace a love that is healthy, stable, and real, she has to walk a path of self discovery. She has to leave behind the comfort of what she's always known, even if that means walking away from someone who loves her. It doesn't always make sense from the outside. People wonder, why would she leave a man who treated her well? Why would she step away from something that looked like everything she once wanted? But growth isn't always linear. Healing isn't always a straight path. Sometimes, in order to become the person who can fully accept and reciprocate deep love, she has to go through a period of unraveling, a period of confronting her fears, of breaking old patterns, of understanding why she's spent so much of her life feeling like love was something she had to struggle for. For some women, love has always been tied to self-worth. They've been taught consciously or unconsciously that they have to be something, be more, be less, be perfect in order to be loved. So when they meet someone who sees them just as they are, who doesn't ask them to prove anything, who offers love freely, it can be overwhelming. It can bring up every buried fear, every insecurity, every voice that ever told them they weren't enough. And instead of leaning in, they pull away, not because they don't want love, but because they don't know how to receive it without questioning their own value. And this is where the real journey begins, because love isn't just about being with someone else. It's about being whole within yourself. It's about understanding that love is not a transaction, not something you have to earn, not something that is given only when you perform in a certain way. It's about knowing deep in your soul that you are worthy of love simply because you exist. But that kind of understanding doesn't come easily. It takes work. It takes unlearning years of conditioning. It takes healing the wounds that tell you love must be difficult, that peace is boring, that if someone isn't making you chase them, then it's not real. It takes realizing that love isn't supposed to feel like an emotional battlefield. It's supposed to feel like home. And sometimes, in order to arrive at that realization, a woman has to walk away, not because she doesn't see the value of the love being offered to her, but because she has to go find herself first. She has to do the internal work to figure out why she keeps running from the things that are good for her, to understand the parts of herself that still believe she isn't ready for what she's being given. She has to redefine love, not as something she has to fight for, but as something that can exist in peace, in stability, in mutual respect and care. And when she does that, when she truly meets herself, heals herself, loves herself, then she will no longer run from love. She will no longer push it away out of fear, out of uncertainty, out of the feeling that it's too good to be true. She will stand in front of love, open and unafraid, ready to receive it fully. And when that day comes, maybe she will also realize that the love she once walked away from was the love that was meant for her all along.